DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. Dre, what is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is men, stop being pussies. That's the topic. And this is going to be a 5-part series, by the way. So there's a lot I need to say on this subject. But before we get into any of that, I remind you of a couple things. First of all, my text message number down below in the description. Once we start sending it out again, you'll be getting that straight to your phone. Secondly, workonmygame.com. You want to get my emails every single day completely for free, straight to your inbox. Go to workonmygame.com, and it's free to get on my email list. No charge to put your email address in. And number 3, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to have me as your direct coach. You like these things you hear me talking about here. You like to have me directly working with you, specifically and on a personalized way on implementing these things into your life, your career, and your business. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. All those links down below in the description. So this topic, let me tell you where this came from. I thought of this topic after seeing an epidemic of young men coming into my comments on, let's say, social media, for example, and I use every social media platform. Men coming into my comments and attempting to debate me on some subject upon which they apparently have had strong opinions. And this is not this whole conversation didn't come just from this, but it's endemic of why I'm talking about this. So some men will come in my comments, they want to debate me on something, they have a strong opinion on against something that I said. And then I go look on their pages, these same men who are in my comments, waxing poetic and telling me how strongly they feel about ABC. And I don't see any public posts of them talking about any of these things that they allegedly feel so strongly about. And this perplexed me. I'm just like, oh my, you feel so strongly about this subject, but I look at your page, no one would even know that you believe it, because you're not saying it. You're not publicly saying any of these things. You're only saying it in the comments to my shit, but you're not saying it on your own platforms. And that made me curious. Like, why is this happening? I saw this happen over and over and over again. And it tells me a couple things. By deductive reasoning, it tells me that either this person doesn't truly believe what they're saying, because if they did, they'd be saying it on their own volition. They wouldn't need someone like me to prompt them to say it with what I'm saying, or they simply don't have the balls to say it all out. They do believe it. They just don't have the balls to say it all out, because if they said it publicly on their own page, they got to stand behind it. But see, if you come in the comments where you can generally hide, then you can get away with saying it and nobody knows that it's you saying what you're saying. So they don't have the balls to say these things publicly with their name, image, and likeness connected to it. It's easy to hide in Instagram comments because Instagram comments are not indexed by search engines. In other words, if I go into the comments of your Instagram posts and start talking shit, nobody will ever know that I said that unless they read that actual Instagram post comments. They're not going to come up in Google search just because I said it. But if I post it on my page, now somebody looks me up and sees my page, they'll see everything that I had to say. So this is, again, what got me kind of curious. Why is this happening? And again, what I just explained to you is an example. It's not the whole point, but it's an example of what got me thinking that there are a lot of males these days who are just pussies. And when I say they're pussies, I'm not just talking about comments on social media. I'm talking about many things. This is why this is going to be a 5-part series. So let's just get right into it, because I'll explain everything as I get into my points. Point number 1, topic once again is men, stop being pussies. This is part 1 of what will be an ongoing 5-part series. Number 1, if you have opinions that you prefer to keep to yourself and not talk about publicly, that's completely fine. I think I still have a few opinions that I don't really talk about publicly that much. I think 98% of them I've told you all about. But I think I probably do have some opinions. Yeah, I do got some opinions when it comes to individual people, maybe people that I know, maybe things that I've experienced that I have opinions on that I haven't talked about, at least not yet. And that's completely fine. You want to keep your opinions to yourself, you can do that. You don't have to have a podcast. You ain't got to be an influencer. You don't have to be on social media telling people what you think every day. You do not need to do any of the things you see me or others doing. You have opinions you want to keep to yourself. That is 100% okay. That does not make you a pussy. However, if you are going to openly disagree with or criticize someone else who is willing to share their opinion publicly, and then you're going to just go and criticize them for their opinion that they put out there publicly, and you're not putting one out there publicly, and then you're going to openly criticize them because they're sharing theirs, then you are being a pussy. At that point, you become a pussy. Because if you really believe what you're saying, even if it's just a counterpunch to what the other person says, then go on the record and say it. Say it on the record. Say it with your chest, as they say. There is no alternative to this point. This is a binary. Either you're going to keep your opinions to yourself, or you're going to jump all the way in and share your opinions behind your own name, your own image, and your own likeness, so it can be traced and sourced directly to you. If you ain't willing to do that, then be quiet. All right. As we say, stay on the porch. And what I'm finding is a lot of men want to play in between on this. They want to share their strong opinions, again, where they can hide. But when they out in the open and exposed, where you can't hide, they're not saying anything. You're quiet. All right. This is pussy behavior. This is pussy behavior. All right. This is one of the most annoying things about the internet, particularly social media, because I see this often. People will come into my spaces in my comments and they'll offer these pointed critiques and challenges of things that I say, which is fine. I actually like when people do that because it becomes source material for future content for me. The issue is that when I look into them, I don't see them saying any of the things that they so willingly will say to me in a way that they can hide, such as comments behind anonymous accounts or in a thread. And again, they're not saying it on their posts and they're not saying it on their own public profiles. But clearly you believe it, or at least it appears that you believe it by what you're saying to me. This is pussy behavior. A man who has an opinion and is open to share it where they can hide, but then you don't want to share it when you can't hide, you're being a pussy. There are no two ways about this. I've told you all that there are 3 types of people in the world who annoy me most, and this could be male or female, but mostly I'm talking about men. Number 1 is the moralizer. The moralizer is a person who occupies the moral high ground against someone else when they can point out something that someone else did that makes them a quote unquote bad person, and they will wag their finger at this person literally or proverbially and basically put themselves on a higher moral standing than that person. This is called moralizing. I'm not a fan of it. And there's a lot of people out there who do a whole lot of moralizing without even realizing that the thing you're moralizing about, you are really unqualified to moralize. We just don't know about your shit the way we know about this public person's shit. So some famous person has something happen where they get caught in a scandal, and a bunch of people who are not famous start talking shit about how bad of a person the famous person is because they got caught doing ABC. And I'm looking at that person because I may know them personally, and I say, well, dude, you got some shit in your closet that if the public knew about it, you wouldn't be talking right now, would you? But because nobody knows you, your shit is hidden and it stays quiet. But see, if your shit was in the public, you'd be real quiet right now. But you got a lot to say because your shit is hidden. That's moralizing. I'm not a fan of moralizers. They are number 1. My least favorite type of people are the moralizers. Second least favorite type of person is a feminine energy man. These are the men in women's bodies. Their emotional management, their emotional control, their communication skills, and what appears to be their thought processes come straight from a woman, but they happen to be in a man's body. And I call these people feminine energy men. And the third type of person who I dislike the most are the complainers. Complainers are losers. And everybody at times has complaints. For example, I was on a flight from Vegas back to South Florida this past weekend, and I flew United Airlines, which I usually don't fly. I usually fly Delta or American. I've started to lean towards Delta more than American. I just like their staff better. I like their airplanes better. And I like they tend to just have better, for whatever reason, they tend to just have better flight options in the flights that I've been taking over the last couple of years. So I've really been leaning more towards Delta. But there were no good flights on American or Delta coming back from the West Coast to the East Coast. It's always hard to find a good flight from the West to the East and avoid red eyes. I didn't avoid the red eye. I took the red eye, but I flew United. And United, I like the staff. I like the plane. And it was on time. I got home on schedule. The problem is I always use Wi-Fi on the plane. I don't sleep on airplanes. I'm on a computer working. And I use Wi-Fi, and United charges $8 per leg of a flight for Wi-Fi access. So I had a 2-leg flight, and it was $8 on each flight to use the Wi-Fi. So from Vegas to Chicago, then Chicago to South Florida, $16 total. The problem is the Wi-Fi wasn't that good. It was kind of spotty at different times. And secondly, you can only use one device. You sign up for the Wi-Fi and pay for it, you can only use one device. So I signed up for the Wi-Fi on my phone. I paid for this when I booked the flight. I paid $16 because I knew I was going to use the Wi-Fi. So then when I turn it on, it connects to your account on United and all that. And then when I'm on my phone, then I turn on my laptop and they're like, well, you're already using Wi-Fi on your phone on one device. If you want to use it on this device, then you have to switch, and it will turn off the Wi-Fi on that device, and it'll turn it on this device. And I'm like, how the hell are y'all limiting me to one device in 2025, and you're charging me for it? Compare this to Delta, where the Wi-Fi is free. As long as you have an account with Delta's, their online account, the free. As long as you got an account, the Wi-Fi is free. American Airlines, I'm looking at you all because they charge for Wi-Fi too. At least the last time I flew American, they were charging for Wi-Fi as well. Delta gives it away for free. United's charging us $8 a flight, and they only give you one device. So I went on X and I complained to United. I made a public post and complained. I said, why are y'all charging me? And you only allow me to use one device. I usually fly Delta, and it's free for them, and y'all charging me $8. That's gonna make me fly Delta instead of flying United. And I fly first class, so it's not like I'm some cheap customer. And this is complaining. So I'm telling you all this to help you understand there is a space for complaining, but I complain strategically. My strategic complaining led to United responding, and they refunded me my $16. Now, I didn't do all that for $16. The point was to get my message across to them and to do it publicly in a way that other people saw it, which is my whole point, and it got their response. The point is, I'm not saying that complaining all the time is a bad deal, but when I say complaining, I mean people who complain with no end, no strategic point of the complaining, and not even using it as energy to go do anything. This is loser behavior. I don't do that. And that's why complainers are one of my least favorite people. So anyway, all that being said, folks, if you have something to say it with your chest, as I said earlier. Say it publicly, put your name next to it. Put your image and likeness next to it. Make it findable on Google. Don't hide behind an anonymous account. Don't just say it in somebody else's comment. Say it to where you can be fully attributed, if you're a man, if you want to share your opinions. And if you don't, then okay, be all the way in, be all the way out. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is men. Stop being pussies. Number 2, stop standing behind a female like a bitch. If you're a man, you don't stand behind a woman. I don't care who the woman is. If you are a man, you do not stand behind a woman. That's not what a man was designed to do. God made it that the man stands in front and the woman stands behind the man. Period. There is no other way of this. If you're a man who has a woman in your life, which is fine. If you're heterosexual, you probably want a woman or women in your life. That woman's role and her natural inclination is to be a support system to and for you. That's the woman's natural role. That is her natural inclination, which means when a man is playing his natural role, the woman naturally falls into her natural role. So if you are a man listening to this, or you're a woman listening to this, and you're a man with a woman in your life, or you're a woman with a man in your life, assuming both you are heterosexual, meaning you're attracted to the opposite sex, and the woman is in a leadership position, clearly, that is because the man is not playing his natural role. If the man would assume his natural role, the woman will naturally fall into the number 2 spot. Only time you see a woman in a number 1 spot is because she is not playing her natural role, because somehow, some way, the man ain't doing his job. So whose fault is this? So some people will ask when they hear this, or who do you blame? Who do you blame? Well, you blame the man. You see the name of the series, don't you? I didn't say women stop being pussies. I said men stop being pussies. When a man plays his role properly, a woman naturally plays her role. You don't even have to tell her. You don't have to explain it to her. She just does it. That's the way we are wired as human beings. This is not some new age, it's how it is in 2020. No, this is how it is, period. If a man plays his role naturally, the way he's supposed to play it, a woman will naturally play her role with that man. No exceptions. Now, you get a pussy man, then a woman starts acting like a man. This is how you get woman in the number 1 spot and a man playing the bitch role in the relationship. All of you know what I'm talking about. Any of you who know a lot of couples, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If the woman in your life, if you're a man, you have a woman in your life who is not playing her support role the way she's supposed to, there's one reason and one reason only why she's not doing that. Because you, man, are not doing your job as a leader. It has nothing to do with the woman. Now, I'm not saying every woman in the world is naturally accustomed and naturally fit to be a supporter to you, because not every 2 people are completely compatible. But you pick a woman that you want to be with, and she decides she wants to be with you, and somehow she gets into the number 1 role and you're in the number 2 spot, something went wrong there. And what went wrong is based on you, man, not based on her. It is based on you. I'm not saying the woman's perfect. Far from it. But again, the man was designed by wiring, natural human wiring. The man was designed to be in a leadership position. So if something's going wrong in an organization of 2, I'm looking at the person who's supposed to be leading, and that's you. That's how I come to this conclusion, that it is the man's fault. And people are wondering, why am I saying it's the man? Why can't it be the woman? I just told you why. Because naturally the man's the leader. When a corporation is failing and the shareholders decide to go in there and make some changes, who do they fire? They don't fire the maintenance man. They don't fire a middle manager. They fire the boss. They fire the CEO. Why? Because the CEO is in charge. That's it. They fire the person at the top. Why? Because you're the one in charge. So if a relationship's not working between a heterosexual man and heterosexual woman, the man is the one who is failing. When the man gets his shit together, the woman will fall in line. Again, that doesn't mean the woman's perfect, but she will fall in line when the man's doing what he's supposed to be doing. So therefore, if a woman is not seeing you as the leader and has decided to fill the void by leading herself, you have only yourself to blame. Humans work in this way similar to dogs. Any of you who has a dog, or you ever see somebody walking a dog, next time you're outside, you see someone walking a dog, I want you to notice, look at and ask yourself, is the human walking the dog or is the dog walking the human? Because dogs are pack animals. Instinctively, they're pack animals. We know dogs can't talk. So dogs, anytime they're in a pack, and a pack with a dog is two or more entities. A dog and a human is a pack in the mind of the dog. And in every pack, there must be a leader. Every organization must have a boss. Malcolm X said that in his autobiography. Strongest point in there. Every organization must have a boss. So put a dog and a human together, that's an organization. There must be a boss. And the dog is going to look at the human and see, okay, human, are you going to lead me? And if you lead, the dog will follow you. If you don't lead, the dog will lead you. So next time you see somebody walking a dog, look at them and ask yourself, who's leading this walker? Is the dog walking the human or is the human walking the dog? It'll be very obvious. Living where I live, there's a whole lot of dog parents. There's actually more dog parents than there are human parents. Like more adults I see who have dogs than I see adults who have kids, or at least young kids. And I see a lot of dogs walking humans. So a lot of dogs walking humans walking around Miami. The dog is basically telling the human where we're going to go, and the human is just following behind and holding on for dear life, hoping the dog doesn't drag them down the street. And oftentimes the dog does drag them down the street. This is the way a lot of humans operate in their own relationships. There's a lot of you men are in your relationships getting led around the same way a dog is pulling you around the street to go poop on the fire hydrant because you're not leading. So the woman is leading you around. I'm not calling your woman a dog, but you get my point. Sometimes I may be calling your woman a dog, but you get the point. If she doesn't see you as a leader, she fills the void by leading. That's it. If you would step up, do your job as a man, she will gladly and quickly fall in line because that's her natural state, is to fall in line. As I've said in the past, and I will say again in the future, and I'll say it here today, I am not a fan of feminism at all, but I understand why it exists. The reason feminism has become more and more popular in today's world is because a whole bunch of men are acting like bitches and women naturally have to become men. Because there has to be that polarity in a relationship. You need a masculine, you need a feminine. So if the man's acting like a woman, then the woman's gonna start acting like a man. Period. That's the way it works. There are some women listening to this right now. You feel like you have to operate like a man in your world. That's because you don't have a man in your world. You don't have a man around you, so you had to become the man. Unfortunately for you. Now, again, this series here is addressing the men, but let me address the women for a moment. If you're a woman who feels like you've had to operate in the world as if a man, let me hold you accountable just for a moment here, even though this series is not about you. If you would start behaving in a more feminine way, you might be able to attract a more masculine man. Because there are a lot of masculine men out there who don't want to compete with another man energy in order to be who they need to be. And they look at you and say, okay, shit, I got to outman this woman in order to even be who I am. She ain't even worth the effort. So he moves on and goes to find a woman who's already feminine. Instead of having to undo your masculinity and make you feminine, why not just find a woman who's already feminine? So ladies, let me just throw that bone towards the ladies out there. Again, extending my metaphor about dogs. I'm not calling y'all dogs. You get my point. All right, let me just throw that bone to you all here just as a side note. Now, I may do a whole series just on that alone, but today we're addressing the men and for the next 4 episodes. So again, I'm not a fan of feminism, but this is not because women wanted feminism necessarily. It's because a lot of men start acting like bitches. And the women said, okay, I guess I got to be a man now. I guess I got to have some testicles now because look at these bitch men. I guess I got to have some balls. And that's what happened. This is just natural. This is a natural response. So some of you men may be listening to this and saying, well, why is it that the man had to mess up first for the women to start acting like that? I just told you because the man is the leader. So if the man starts acting like a bitch, then the woman is going to respond to the man by acting like a man. If the man starts acting like a man again, the woman will respond to the man by being a female. Because the man leads, the woman follows. That's the principle. That's the rule. All right, this is biologically wired in us, folks. This is not a Dre opinion. It's biologically wired in us. So these days, you got a lot of women filling the masculine vacuum in the universe because there's so many bitch ass men. This is it. Especially online these days, I see a lot of feminine energy men saying things that is designed to pander to and appease women, especially feminist women, by talking about things as if they are women. I see a lot of men talking like women on the internet. And a lot of women love the things that they say, and I will go into their spaces, into their comments, and call them out on their bullshit. Like, yo, you're over here pandering to women, sounding like a bitch. Why? So you can get a bunch of likes on your posts? Stop being a pussy. I say this directly to men on X. That's the only app where I engage in commentary, by the way. So don't go looking on Instagram or YouTube. But on X, I do this damn near every day. So I see men on there trying to appease feminists by saying things like women being bosses, how much power and skill and ability that women have, how women are absolutely qualified and designed to be leaders of men, etc., etc. Again, some of these things in the right context, I can agree with the spirit of the point. But I find most of it to be virtue signaling, which is really what it is. It's virtue signaling. When a man comes out and starts saying all these, basically saying negative things about men, and saying how women are fit to lead and a woman is this and a woman's that, and getting all these rounds of applause from women and a social media victory lap from women because of the things that he said as a man. No, he's a pussy, number one. Number two, he's virtue signaling. Number three, he's pandering just for attention. This is what women do. See, men don't need to do that. Women do that. That's a feminine energy man doing things to appease the feminine energy because he knows he's going to get attention for it. Because women tend to be more emotional, men tend to be more logical. Doesn't say that a woman can't be logical and a man can't be emotional. We both are both. We all are both. But again, get the spirit of my point. Please don't take the shit that I say out of context. I'm pretty good at wrapping context around my points. I've been doing this for a while, if you can't tell. So again, some things in the right context I can actually agree with. Again, I understand why feminism exists because a lot of men are acting like bitches. So of course women are going to step and start acting like men. I understand. I'm not mad at the women for this. I understand exactly why you're doing it. You may not even understand why you're doing it, but I understand why you're doing it. But I find most of it to be virtue signaling. And I find a lot of pussy men, feminine energy men who are heterosexual. They are attracted to women, but they act like females. This is the easiest way many of them can ever get a woman to pay attention to them. This is the issue with feminine energy men. That some of you men, some of you who are listening to this right now, the easiest way you can ever get a woman, a feminine woman, to pay any attention to you is to pander to her emotions by saying some pandering shit about how women are above men in some way, shape, or form, because there's a lot of women out there who want to hear that. And that's the only way you get a woman to pay attention to what you have to say or even notice your existence. In that context, it becomes pandering and it's much more annoying. And at that point, you become a feminine energy man. See, a man in his masculine who's on his hustle and on his purpose and doing his thing, he will naturally attract the energy of the feminine without even trying. Why? Because you're so on your purpose that she's attracted to you. You don't even have to notice her. That's the way it's supposed to look, men, just in case any of you wanted to know. We'll talk about that. Let's continue. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is men, stop being pussies. Number 3, get control of your emotions. We talked about this already much in this very episode. All human beings have emotions. I'm not telling you not to have emotions. All right. Males have emotions. And as a matter of fact, males feel their emotions maybe even more strongly than women because males have more physical ability to act on their emotions than a woman has. A woman who's emotionally unstable can be dangerous. A man who's emotionally unstable can be deadly. Because a man can physically do things that a woman cannot do, at least in a man's body. Whether even he's a bitch ass man, he's still a man. He still has male physicality. So a gay man still has male physicality. All right, even though he may have a lot of feminine energy and feminine ways of thinking and feminine ways of speaking, even feminine mannerisms, he still has the physicality of a man, which makes him more dangerous than an emotional female in any aspect as a general rule. But it is the male's responsibility, much more so than females, to control and channel your emotions into positive behavior and actions, rather than allowing your emotions to spill out from within in reckless ways, action-wise, or reckless verbal communication. So reckless, you can be verbally reckless, you can be physically reckless. A man's job is to control your emotions. That does not mean that a man may not decide to at some point go and punch somebody in the face if they want to do it. But if you do it, it should be a calculated decision. It shouldn't be something that you just lost control of yourself and now you're apologizing for having done it. You shouldn't really need to apologize unless maybe, if you go to court, you got to show some contrition to the judge to get a lesser sentence. That part I get. That's hustling. But you shouldn't be apologizing because you didn't mean to do it. Now, if I punch somebody in the face, I meant to do it. I'm not going to apologize to you for doing it because I did it on purpose. Because I'm in control of my emotions. And if I don't punch you in the face, it's also on purpose. Even if I believed, even if I could justify, if I decide not to do it, it's because I decided logically to not do it. And if I do, it's because I decided logically to do it. That's what emotional control looks and sounds like. Men, you need to get control of your emotions. A lot of you men out there, because of this movement around mindfulness and being in touch with your emotions and these false ideas about what people call quote unquote toxic masculinity, that you have to show your emotions and be in touch with your emotions and be more like a woman. And a lot of people talking about toxic masculinity are actually females, which is ridiculous, because if there was a man out there writing books and doing TED Talks and writing articles, thought pieces about how a woman in her feminine is supposed to behave, a lot of women would be up in arms like, who are you as a man to tell women how they're supposed to be behaving? But when a woman turns around and tries to tell men about what makes them toxic in their masculine, people are just accepting it like it's okay. We should be saying the same thing to that woman that a woman would say to the man. Like, bitch, shut the fuck up. What the fuck do you know about masculinity? You ain't no man. Why are you speaking? Again, females, that's what you would say if a man was talking about femininity, wouldn't you? Oh, this is how a woman is supposed to be if she's being feminine. You'd be like, wait, who are you? You ain't got a vagina. Why are you speaking? So it's the same thing the men should be saying to women when they're talking about masculinity. What the hell do you know about being masculine? Shut up. So let me explain to you, men. You need to have control over your emotions. You need to learn how to manage and direct your emotions. It does not mean don't have emotions. It means you control them. They don't control you. That's what emotional management is. I told you all, you are in the emotional management business. Your business is managing your emotions and channeling your emotions, extracting the energy, because every emotion has energy in it. Remember, energy is neither created nor destroyed. Extracting the energy from every emotion and then channeling it to its proper direction so that you can be on your purpose and perform at the level you need to perform. That's the man's role and responsibility. And a man who can do that, you will naturally start growing into your masculine, and that will naturally attract women who are in their feminine. May even melt the masculine off of a masculine energy woman and get her back into her feminine if you're willing to go to such lengths to do that work. I'm talking about the man, meaning changing a masculine energy woman back to feminine. But you may decide she ain't even worth the effort. Just go find a woman who's already in her feminine. Again, that's why, ladies, I had to address you a moment ago. So between the two sexes, women can be much more, and I've seen this, much more catty, verbally nasty, verbally combative with each other. I've seen women do some very nasty things verbally towards other women and even towards other men. Men, on the other hand, tend to handle things more physically than verbally. Again, as a general rule. And again, the simple reason why women are can be so verbally nasty is because women don't have the physicality to go any further, as a general rule. Men have the physicality to go further. This is why you don't see men often doing a whole lot of back and forth bickering and arguing. And when they do, it starts to look and feel feminine, because that's what bitches do. They argue and talk shit. They argue with each other and talk shit to each other and mumble under their breath about each other when they walk by. Men ain't got to do that. We can just settle it physically. We ain't got to talk at all. Now, I'm not saying go and do this. What I'm saying is these are the natural instincts of both man and woman. There's no need for men to have a back and forth bickering thing, because again, we ain't got to do that. Women tend to not engage in, you don't often see women physically fist fighting. You do, but when you do, they look like men. All right, why are these women out here fighting at McDonald's? Okay, no, no. So when I see a man who wants to continue running off at the mouth of another man in a verbal altercation, I'm like, all right, this guy he's a female in a man's body. Right? That's a man who's not in control of managing his emotions. Because when you don't have control of your emotions, they tend to spill out through the tongue. That's how you get your emotions out, by talking. See, a man who's in control of his emotions channels those emotions through to action. It can be positive action, it can be negative action, but it's channeled through action, not through words. Words are not action. Talking is not an accomplishment. All that said, let's recap today's class. This is part 1 of our ongoing 5-part series directed at the men. Stop being pussies. Number 1, if you have options that you prefer, opinions, you prefer to keep to yourself, that's completely fine. But if you're going to put them out at all, put them out there with your chest out and put your name next to it. Say what you mean and stand on it. Number two, stop standing behind women like a bitch. When a man stands on the front line, women will naturally get behind him. If a man cowers and doesn't stand on the front line, the women will naturally respond by taking the lead. They don't really want to take the lead, but they will if nobody else is taking the lead. And number three, get control of your emotions. A man's job is to channel and manage your emotions into productive activity and actions. That's when you are mostly in your masculine essence, and that's when women will naturally follow you. When you are behaving like a woman, letting your emotions out through your mouth, then that's when you start to get into your feminine energy. And this is when women have to step up and be the man, because you clearly ain't being it yourself. That said, tomorrow we're going to get into part 2 of the series. Again, this is a 5-part series, so there's a lot that needs to be said. Make sure you go to workonmygame.com, get on my email list for free, and go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Have me as your direct coach so we can start applying this stuff, not only in your personal life, but also your business life with me as your direct coach. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all